Alright everybody, it's Revolver84 here once again, and today I'm going to do a review of the DLC Imperial City for the video game Elder Scrolls Online. So the Imperial City was the first pay-for DLC on console, because Craglorn was already included in the console version. It's predominantly a PvP area, although there is PvE elements to it as well. And it's set in the old Imperial City where the Emperor is supposed to have resided, that everyone's fighting over in Cyrodiil. It consists of sort of two levels. There's the sewer area, which is the underground, which is full of danger. It's very cramped. It's not the best conditions for manoeuvring, but there is some seriously good bosses down there. And it's the city itself, which is split into districts, and each district has its own sort of boss and has its own theme going on. Like some have like camps, some have just like battlements and stuff, and some have like temples and things, and they all have their own sort of feel, but the look's sort of the same. The artwork of all the buildings, regardless of what area you're in, is about the same. It's to look like it's the old Imperial City, so everything's quite monolithic, quite gothic, and built with stone. So what are you going to be doing? So within the districts, there are scouting missions, which is basically you go to that district, you raise your banner of your alliance, and that's usually the scouting mission done. But once you've scouted it, it then unlocks submissions which aren't quests related to the story. The individual quests with nothing particular in mind. It's usually like go here, kill this guy, go here, collect that sort of type of thing. But in addition to that as well, there is the overall story as well. So the story is, as you know, the Emperor is not on the throne anymore, and the three alliances are vying for power. And while that's happening, Molag Bal's decided to send his guys down to chin the place and take over the city himself. So he's got his Daedra running around causing bother. And I don't want to do any spoilers or anything, but basically they're running around in the city looking for something, and you have to eventually get to I'm going to say a cathedral. I don't want to give too much away. You have to eventually get to a cathedral within the city. I have to say the story's canny, and it does introduce a load of new characters, enemies that you're not really used to, like the Grievous Twilight, the various different types of Zifkin, and as well as the Zifkin armor sets and motifs and stuff that you can get as well. There is the normal sort of Daedra as well, running around like your scamps and stuff like that, but there is new enemies to take care of, so that's interesting as well. Some of the things that you can pick up in Imperial City, which you can't pick up in other areas, are things like Telvar stones, which is like a new currency just for within the Imperial City. So you get Telvar stones for chinning non-playable characters, enemies really, but also as well for chinning the other alliances players, because what happens is if you kill another alliances player who has Telvar stones on them, he drops some of them. You usually drop about 50% of them, and when they drop them, you pick them up. And the more Telvar stones you have, the more that you're going to be able to go back to your alliance's base within the sewers and purchase things. Now, I don't know how you feel about it, but basically the only things you can really sort of purchase are things like armor sets, gear sets, and Sigil of Retreat, things like that. Well, actually the Sigil of Retreat's the alliance point, so it is just really the armor sets really. Depending on how your build is and stuff, you might even find that the armor sets aren't very good. I'm personally going to try the Black Rose armor set, but yeah, it depends on what you're into really. You might actually find that by the time you get there, your armor's actually better than the stuff that's available for purchase with the Telvar stones, so you might not feel the need to farm them. A useful tip for farming Telvar stones, and something to think about, is that there is multipliers assigned to them with the more Telvar stones that you have on you. So what happens is, if you have X amount of Telvar stones, you can go up to 4 times the amount of Telvar stones you would normally drop when you drop enemies. The downside of that is when you get beat and you're defeated, you lose more Telvar stones, and as a result when you drop them. So the best thing is to go back to your base, deposit them in your bank regularly. Another thing that you can farm though are cave fragments. So cave fragments are just like blue stones basically, and what they do is if you can get 60 of these fragments together, you get a key, and then you go up top into the city, and spread throughout the city are vaults, and you need these keys to get into access to these vaults. Within the vaults you can get other gear sets as well, and other bits of loot as well from these vaults, to be fair, these gear sets are actually quite good. I currently have an agility gear set that I found from the monster vault, which is quite good, and so far so good in terms of loot that you can get from those vaults. So you might not feel like you want to get Telvar stones too much, but you're going to be getting them while you're getting the key fragments if you're farming key fragments anyway, so you might as well get them. At the end of the day, it's no skin off your nose, and you might actually purchase something from there and then be able to go and sell it later on if you're not going to use the gears yourself. One of the fun things about this zone, I have to say, is when you group with other players. So that because it's so cramped, it's unlike Cyrodiil where you can be running around with a group of players and not bump into any other enemies for quite some time. Because it's quite cramped, there's usually so many people to bump into and fight. And if you're not fighting PvP, there's plenty of enemies and bosses. Like I say, each district has a boss, so by all means you can take that boss out with your group as well, which is quite rewarding. And there's respawn locations as well that your group can take on as well. So grouping within Imperial City is pretty good, to be fair. In fact, I'll go so far as to say grouping into Imperial City is even better than Cyrodiil, just because the combat happens a lot faster. It's a lot easier to find your opponents. Speaking of grouping up, if you don't want to go around chinning other players in PvP, there is some new dungeons. There's 2 new dungeons, both normal and veteran level, where you can go in and you can take on Daedra. So there is the prisons and the White Gold Tower, and they both have their own story as you would expect, type of thing, and they both have Daedra enemy based on Molag Bal's forces, and yeah, they're pretty good. I'm not going to lie. They are quite difficult, especially the Imperial Prison one. There's a number of bosses in the Imperial Prison one who are quite hard to beat, purely because you tend to find for 2 of them that they have a really strong, I guess you could call it their ultimate attack, where they have a very strong attack which, unless you're the most powerful of enemy players and you have a really good healer, it might 1 or 2 hit kill you really. So yeah, it is certainly a challenge. Loot from there is just as good as any other dungeon, I would say, but it is a rewarding experience. And if you do like your dungeons, you do like doing your pledges, it's certainly worth getting for the dungeons that have been added in this DLC. So what do I think of it after all that then? Well, it has a reputation, this DLC, as being very PvP, and it is very PvP, and I've heard people say that you shouldn't purchase it if you're a PvE player type of thing, because it's very PvP, but there is a PvE element to it. There is a story there. There is two new dungeons, including normal and veteran, so there is plenty of PvE content there as well, so don't feel as if you're a PvE only that this will be something that you're not going to be interested in. So there is stuff there for you. I'm not going to lie, you will have to change your build a little bit, but it is rewarding. In addition to rewards as well, you've got the new Zifkin motifs, you've got the new gear sets. It's certainly something worth considering. In terms of PvP, if you like pure PvP combat, it's pretty damn good, to be fair, because you're in such close proximity to your enemy. You haven't got to ride around for a long time. There's no castles to siege, there's no watchtowers to siege. It's basically like if you see your enemy, you're getting attacked or you're going to attack them, you've got to, there's no other way around it. If you're a PvE person and you don't want to get involved in that, you've got 2 choices. You can hide or you can run. But my advice would be to amend your build so that you could at least take on players in PvP combat while you're going around doing whatever you're doing against your PvE enemies. So that sort of brings me to my score, really. Like I say, it's been given sort of a rep as this being a PvP only thing, and I very much don't feel that is the case, and because of that I think it should be scored higher than it probably is. I think people scored it lower than it should have been because they was purely focused on PvP, that's all they really saw in it, but you've got to consider that there is PvE there as well. When you consider that there's the additional gear sets, and motifs and such like, I would say this is a pretty good DLC if I'm honest. The story could be a little bit longer, I'm not gonna lie, it doesn't take too long to go through, but that's because there's a PvP element there to take your time within the area as well. But yeah, it's not too bad. If I was to give it a score out of 10, I would say it's a solid 7 really. You know, everything looks fine, the graphics are continued on from the main story, the main game. Gameplay is just as good, it just brings in more content to an already pretty good game really. So yeah, 7 out of 10. Would recommend it, and like I say, as a final note, don't be put off if you're a PvE person who doesn't like PvP, because there is elements to PvE in it. And I know that in other reviews that other people have done, they've really sort of slated it without stating that it has any PvE stuff in it. So yeah, I hope this review's been beneficial for you. I hope it's given you something to think about, and I hope you'll invest in it, and I'll see you out there in the city. Don't forget to subscribe, folks. All the best.